All right. Parks Committee will come to order. We'll note Alderman Burnett, Alderman Weary here, Alderman Johnson, and Alderman Nicholson are excused. Thank you, Alderman Stoyer, Mr. Presidente, for joining us tonight. Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Can we have an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Burnett, second by Stoyer. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C is approval of the minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Burnett, second by Stoyer. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. D, regular business. Number 1, request approval to purchase a 33,000 GVWR cab and chassis from Truck Country for $75,399. Hello, sir.
We issued an RFQ for this cab and chassis. We received, I think, 5 different proposals from 4 vendors, recommending the low vendor. The award to Truck Country on a Freightliner for $75,399, I believe. It's amazing how close these bids are on that big a piece of equipment between Freightliner and International. But at any rate, we are recommending the low bid.
Just pardon my ignorance. What department would this be for?
This is going to forestry, I believe, Dan. Both of these are, this is a truck that will have a chipper box mounted on the chassis.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Motion by Alderman Burnett,
Second.
second by Alder Stoyer. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, request approval to purchase a 26,000 GVWR cab and chassis from Truck Country for $69,970.
Again, issued the RFQ, received 3 bids, recommending the lowest bid to Truck Country. This particular vehicle is also for forestry, and it's a flatbed body that will go on the chassis.
Questions?
I do have one question, maybe for the director. So was it at a point where we just needed a new vehicle, or what's the story behind it?
For this one, we are replacing a truck that had a life expectancy of, it's just an old truck, so the unit is no longer in service, so it's replacing Unit 20, which is a 20-ton truck with a dump truck on it, so it's an old truck. We have to replace it with something new. So what we're proposing is to replace it with a flatbed truck that also dumps.
What's the life expectancy supposedly on that?
Usually our vehicles are 15 to 20 years is usually what we get out of them.
Okay. That's good.
Thanks, Alder Burnett.
I do have a question. Just thought of it. This is a 2020 vehicle, so it's brand new, never been used.
Yes.
Like, I mean, have we ever? What's your thoughts on getting a vehicle that's a 2018 or 2019?
We have received proposals on that type of equipment before, both new and used on occasion. Occasionally, a dealer will have a nice piece of used equipment.
Sure.
So, yes, we're open to those
But it
ideas.
depreciates, I would imagine, like just like any other vehicle, it depreciates quite a bit in cost the first year or two.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not an expert on the industry, but there generally is some savings. And one of the hidden savings in that scenario is a lot of times this older piece of equipment may be on the ground. They don't have to order it. So we may be able to put that unit into service 3 to 6 months sooner than if we ordered, a brand new vehicle. So to answer your question, I think, yes, we do entertain those opportunities when they come up.
I think from just any car in the street, not necessarily a city or industrial type car, you lose so much of the value the first year or two. And I'm just thinking that these vehicles depreciate by $15,000 the first year, would it be better off to? But you know what you're doing, so
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that. So.
I just have one thing to add. So in response to Alder Stoyer's question, the second vehicle on the agenda is replacing a 1998 Ford F800 flatbed truck. So So it's over 20 years old is what we're replacing.
And I suppose, I mean, with all the vehicles that you have, you know, I'm sure you're looking at life expectancy and just trying to figure it out as far as when to bring those on board.
Yeah, so, you know, this vehicle needs new brakes and suspension, and the body and flat tire are in pretty poor condition too.
All right, that's all I have.
Move to approve. Motion by Alder Burnett, second by
Second.
Alder Stoy. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3, request by Alderperson Dorf to consider adding a playground area separate from the Baird School playground in Baird Park. For security reasons, the school may not allow the public to use the playground during school hours. The former playground belonged to the city, and the residents of the area are requesting to have a playground they can use. I didn't hear from the Alderperson, but Director, I don't know if you have.
No, I have not heard. She's not here, so I don't know if you want to take action or just refer this to the next committee, but let me give you a little background information here. So in 2015, the city did bond $80,000 to replace the playground at Baird School. At the time, that was with the old park configuration where the school had their own playground and it was on school property. They purchased it and maintained it. And then the city had a second playground closer to the tennis courts where we owned and maintained that one. So at one point, there were 2 playgrounds on the site. Shortly after we bonded for it, but before we could actually purchase the equipment, the school district came forward with the proposal to rethink the property boundaries so that they could build the new school. So about 1.5 years ago, we did bring that agreement forward to the park committee. This is, if you look at your agenda packet, this graphic is in there which shows the new property boundaries and also the concept that was approved at the time for the layout. So as you can see on that concept, if you can just pull it up on your screen, there is one playground on the site which is in the middle. Previously, the 2 playgrounds were kind of off to the sides. So this one was centralized in the middle of the park school to be most advantageous to share services between the school and the parks. So how our agreement works with the school district is if the playground is installed on school property, then they maintain it, the school district maintains it and owns it, and they do not allow the public to use the playground during hours of operation that the school's in session, but in the evenings and weekends and during the summer, the public can use it without any cause for concerns. Now, there are other park school sites where the playgrounds are on the park site, and in those instances, we allow the schools to play on those during recess, but the schools cannot control who is on that playground. So they can't tell a family or a resident to leave the playground if the playground is on city property. So that's how the agreement works. So we have very few schools, park school locations, where we have 2 playgrounds anymore. It's just for efficiencies, we just don't do that very often. And I don't know if there are any. I think the only one right now that has that is maybe Wilder. I'm trying to think if there's any more. So anyway, in this concept, what was decided on was one central location where the school would own and maintain it. So I know I did speak to Alder Dorf prior to this, and she told me that the concern is from residents because they'd like to use the playground during the day, and the school district won't let them when the school is in session in this configuration and setup. So they are requesting a second playground be installed using the money that we bonded in 2015. My only concern with that is if you look at the configuration and the property boundaries, there really is no location where a playground would be suitable. It wouldn't really fit.
There's really no other parks in the area either.
The only other parks where you could look at doing a playground would be Arnie Wolf Sports Complex.
Yeah.
Or we do have another park which isn't a developed park yet, it's more of a greenway. But just south of this park, there is Mackenzie Lane Park. where right now there's just a stormwater management pond and a restored prairie on the property. Those are the two closest parks.
To-
Alderman Burnett.
Okay.
So I'm curious how many families and small children actually use that park or want to use that park during the school day. I mean, when you think about in Alderdorf might have that information, but when you think about the number of hours during the entire year that the school is in operation versus when it's not in operation and the park is accessible within daylight hours, I don't know if it's that much of an inconvenience. And then I guess my second thought is that for good reason, people shouldn't use a school-type park during during school hours for safety reasons. And I don't know if there's any formal rule. To me, it's always been sort of an unwritten rule, even in my own personal life. If I want to take my kids to a park when they were younger, I wouldn't go on a school playground. There's just something about that that's a little off. It might be an unwritten rule, maybe no one else follows that, but I have a feeling most people do. So I think we might be, and I'd have to hear from Alderdorf, but I'm thinking that it's an awful big expense for probably very minuscule demographic that would use that park during hours that the school's in operation.
Alderman Steuer, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just in my neighborhood, my children went to Keller School, and it's a school, but I was under the understanding that it was a bit of a park as well. So I'm just talking from my personal experience that, there might have been some citizens in the area that maybe used that playground as well, but there's really no numbers that I could really see on that. But I would entertain looking at the thought of looking at Mackenzie Lane, which isn't all that far away, for that. Have you had much talk from citizens that are concerned that, hey, I want to use this playground? I mean, what are you getting from
This
that?
is the first time it's come up. Part of it too is, it's a change. So some people just might have to get used to the change. But as far as I know, the only concern or complaint has come through Alderdorf, and I don't know how many complaints she received.
No, is this
on it.
fenced in at all?
No, this would not be
It's
fenced
open,
in.
okay.
But like I said, with all school locations, my understanding is, or at least park school locations, I can't speak for just school locations, but for any park school location, those playgrounds are open to the public on the off hours and weekends.
Okay.
So,
Well, then, I don't know if you have signage to that effect, I mean, is that to be understood, or is
yeah,
that?
well, typically, we have this issue in all of our park school locations, and usually what happens is if there's a family that comes to a school location or a park school and plays on it, basically the recess supervisors will ask them to leave. And then they'll do it once and it won't happen again. Sometimes I receive a complaint about it. Now, I'm not specifically talking about this location, I'm talking about all the park school locations, because I do get occasional calls throughout the city and all the park school locations regarding that.
So,
But then I also get complaints or concerns the other way, where if the playground is in a park, on the park property, that people who have kids that go to the schools, they're concerned that the public is playing on it during school hours. And so I've gotten concerns both ways, and I would say it's probably an equal amount of concern both ways. So there really is no great solution other than having two separate playgrounds, but that's not a cost-efficient solution. And in this case, there really is no room for two playgrounds.
is that a 9 to 3 type of thing during the day? I mean, what are the hours normally?
Every school is a little
It's a
different.
little bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yes?
if there's no room, then I think it's just kind of a moot point at this point. So I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Steuer. To receive and place on file, any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Who made the motion? I apologize. Alder Burnett?
Burnett.
Yes, nice.
That's about it then.
Okay, we go to the next item.
Okay, number 4, request by Alderperson LaFave to review the forestry policy for tree removal in the downtown. As she has noticed, dead trees in the downtown area, in particular the 100 block North Adams, plus other streets downtown. Alderperson.
And I apologize too, I did get to talk to Dan, sit down with him after, I made the request because Dan was gone, and I wanted to get it in, so I made the request at the city council, and the park was canceled, so now it's later. But we did talk a little bit about it, but I did notice, yeah, those dead trees, and they probably were ash, but they've been dead for quite a long time. And, I mean, it's so visible, it's right down here, and you got your beautiful hotel now, destination, you bring people in from all over, and I'm just saying, you know, to me, it looks terrible to have dead trees in your downtown. And, then, you know, let's see what we can do about them.
And I do have a little more information since
Sure.
the last time we talked. I talked to our forester to get the history of these specific trees
Yeah.
and to talk about the downtown as a whole. So currently they have crews kind of for the east side of Green Bay and crews for the west side of Green Bay. And the Fox River is kind of the dividing point. And how they set up their crews to be most efficient is they, for the most part, other than, you know, special circumstances, they plant in the fall, they remove trees in the winter, they plant again in the spring, because fall and spring are the best times to plant trees, and then they do stump grinding in the summer months. So their intention with these trees was always to remove them this winter. Now with these particular trees, these are actually linden trees, and what happened is they started to die off kind of late spring, early summer. And so with the experience that they've had with other linden trees that have been grouped together in the downtown area, this happened on Washington Street, they had the same trees there, and what happened is, I mean, I don't know if it's just certain weather conditions or if it's the age of the tree, but on Washington and now on Adams, that whole block kind of all died at the same time. So they wanted to give it some time to see if that would happen here, because one concern they have is they go there, they cut down one tree, and then 2 weeks later they have to go back and cut a second tree, and then another 2 weeks go back and cut a third tree. So based on their experience, that's what happened. So when the first call came in, or they first noticed it, there was only a couple of visible ones that were showing. Now there's 8 of them that are dead, and so their prediction was correct. So they have marked them all for removal. Their plan is to remove them later this winter, and will be, you know, some of the first trees that they do remove. So that's kind of the history on that, and then they will do the stump grinding next year when they gear their crews up for stump grinding. Now keep in mind that this year, with all the storm damage we had in July, that set our forestry department back months, and so that's, you know, that's part of the, you know, another reason that it hasn't been taken care of. So that's kind of a summary of where we're at. We're aware of it. We know what's happening. It is scheduled, but to kind of keep with our standard practice of we try to group our work accordingly, because it's hard to switch the tree or the gear out and, you know, switch the trucks out to do things differently. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. So my recommendation would be obviously just continue with the process that we have. And if there's special circumstances where there's a, you know, where we have to take one down for an emergency, we'll take care of that, just like we do with storm damage. But this is kind of consistent with what we do with our policy. Now, we're going to have to address that with ash trees downtown, because if you look outside City Hall, a lot of those trees are ash trees, and, you know, those are all, you know, prior to next year, all of those ash trees are probably going to all die at one time. They're already showing signs. So we'll have that in the downtown too. And ash trees are a whole nother issue. I mean, I'm just trying to keep up with the removals and do them all in a timely manner is where we're going to run into a problem with the ash trees, because, you know, now it's really spread throughout the entire city, and, you know, it's going to be tough to take those down in a timely manner if they all die at the same time.
yeah, I can understand some of the efficiency and everything. I'm just concerned with making sure that downtown doesn't look like it's just neglected, you know, dead trees around. That maybe too, that they should do more of a routine of going through and looking at the trees downtown and really see, you know, because once in a while a tree is going to die, right? And it could be pollution, it could be all kinds of reasons that a tree dies, excuse me, but kind of keep an eye on what's happening downtown. I know it's hard then to bring crews in, but try to keep it so, I'm just saying it'll look better than having these dead trees sitting there for
All right.
months and months and months.
Oh, Alderman Stoyer.
Thank you, Chair. Dan, I was gonna ask, what are the species that might be planted? Did I miss that?
They haven't selected the trees yet, but they wouldn't plant a linden anymore. That's not an
Thank you.
appropriate tree because they have a pretty big root system that just
Yeah.
isn't great for a downtown site. But, you know, there are other trees that work really well. Ginkgos work great in the downtown area, so we're not planting those. But
I
there,
think there's
you know, there's
research out there.
certain maple varieties too. You don't want to plant all maples, but there are a few varieties that work well.
Okay.
You know, there's some options out there.
And the thing is too,
Anything else?
I'm sorry, and not to plant like they did, streets, all one kind of tree. And then you have the problem with dying. So you have to make sure that you mix them up.
Now, one thing we are going to look at when it comes time to replacing these particular trees is I do know that Downtown Green Bay Inc. is in the process of looking at the streetscape vision for the downtown area. So obviously, we want to make sure that before we just plant something, you know, it's not going to get ripped up 5 years from now when they look at a streetscape, you know, changing the streetscape. So, you know, before we plant anything, we'll definitely have some conversations with Downtown Green Bay Inc., see where where that process sits, and then we'll, you know, plant accordingly from there.
Sure. Makes
Anything
sense.
else?
No,
Committee?
just one.
What are your
Sure
wishes?
on that.
Well, it seems like Dan's got a pretty good handle on that. Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file. Alderman Burnett, second by Alderman Stoyer. Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for bringing it forward. Sounds like it's
Okay.
underway.
All right, stand here for the next one.
So we're all set.
We are good.
All right, number 5, request by Alderperson LaFave for the Wildlife Sanctuary to reinstate the deer management program. The herd needs culling.
Would you like
Here
this
from-
card?
Well,
Go for it.
yeah, I think Chris knows we've lived in our piece of property there. 1971 we bought it, so we've been there, it's 48 years this June. And I'd say the last 6-7 years, we started having deer coming in. And unfortunately, I have a lot of trees, so deer love all the stuff that you plant in the shade, basically. Even stuff they don't like, they eat. They've been eating everything, and I'm not the only one. You know, so I'm representing myself and my neighbors. There's a whole bunch, you know, all the way along East Shore Drive. People are having the deer coming in, and it's not just one or two. We can get, a herd that comes in. They come in during the day. They've been jumping in my fence, in my garden, which next year I didn't have much of a garden this year. Gonna have to put a bigger fence up, but it's becoming expensive to try to figure something out. I buy this product that you can put down. It kind of helps, but you got to put it down every few days. They say, oh, just a few times a year. Baloney. You got to put it down every few days. It gets expensive. Like I don't know what to do. For me personally, I can't do much, with the deer. But I do feel there's too many, and they have been hit and killed out there. I'm surprised more haven't been hit because I've seen them. They're running in my yard, and all of a sudden they're running right across East Shore Drive, and cars are coming, and I'm just afraid, more people might hit cars, have damage too. And so
Right.
something's got to be done.
Well, if you don't mind, do you have any questions for Alderperson?
No, well, when you say a lot of deer, What I'd like to know is maybe the numbers that are out there right now, and I guess that's
I don't know
probably
if
something
they-
I would direct to the
Yeah.
director. I mean, I don't know if there is.
Director?
Yeah, well, I can give you a little bit more information. So, over the years at the Wildlife Sanctuary, we have managed the deer on and off. So when the herd gets to a level where, staff is concerned about it, we have thinned it out through the archery program, so the bow hunting program, the citywide one. And that has been done in the past, successfully out at the sanctuary. Like I said, it's been a number of years since we've done that, though. So there are benefits to looking at resuming the deer management program. One, it would help decrease the overpopulation of the deer, which would prevent illnesses that could arise from too many deer in one location. Also, it would decrease the amount of damage to the sanctuary vegetation along with
Sure.
residences. And then as later in the winter months, food sources do become minimal for them, and they do begin eating non-preferred food sources because there's no other option. So they might start eating cedars, which isn't a typical food source for them, but if they're out of options, they might look at doing that. If there is a shortage of food out there, it could cause a situation where, some deer would struggle to survive in the long winter months when food is scarce. And then in addition, the other advantage to controlling the herd would be the danger to vehicles. So East Shore Drive is a pretty busy drive, as is Dan's. There have, I'm sure, been accidents documented due to the deer out there. So those are the advantages, and those are not just the advantages just for the sanctuary, those are advantages overall, and the reason why the archery program or deer management program is currently in place for the city. So moving forward, I think as a staff, we have noticed that the herd has gotten bigger. Is it to the point where we're concerned about the health and safety of the deer? I don't know if I can answer truthfully to that. I think we really haven't been documenting it. We have no way to document the number of deer on the site, but we've been seeing more deer than we typically do, so that much I can say. The biggest concern with implementing the program again, if we're going to consider doing that, is the 4K program that's out there. There is a no weapons ban within 1,000 feet of the 4K building. So that's kind of the policy that's out there. And so if we were to allow it, I definitely would be hesitant, and I would be, I would not be in favor of hunting within that boundary zone for the safety of the 4K students. Yeah.
I was going to ask.
All right, I'll start.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. Dan, okay, so I understand that you have that setback area, so to speak, 1,000 foot. Is the 4K building always going to be utilized? I guess my question would be if it's closed on the weekends or such that maybe that you could have a hunt then.
We could possibly look at that. I would have to defer to the city attorneys and the attorneys with the school district to see if that's an option.
Does it
I
have to
don't
be-
know if
yeah.
that's possible on weekends and evenings, or weekends and Fridays and evenings. I'd have to look into it. The other option is east of Dan's Avenue. The 4K students don't go east of Dan's Avenue.
Right.
So that's a pretty natural area that is, we don't get a lot of users out there. My other concern is not just the 4K program, but we get a large number of public in the area west of Dan's Avenue. So it's not just the 4K, it's also all of the animal exhibits, but it's the people walking on the trails, because they're walking on the trails west of Dan's Avenue than east of Dan's Avenue. So I wouldn't have very many concerns if we were to implement it east of Dan's Avenue. If we were to look at west, I would have concerns, and I would have to have further discussions with the school district and the city attorneys to see if that's even a viable option.
Can the deer, east of Dan's Avenue, that's all fenced, but they can still get out?
Those are not, there's openings in the fences, so they can get through during the days. In the evenings, we lock the fence, but those are not, the deer can get past the fence, they can jump the fence. And, those are not deer protection
All right.
fences, they need to be much taller than they are. So I don't know how many deer jump the fence, but I mean theoretically they could, because those fences aren't built to prevent the deer from going back and forth. It's to prevent people from going back
You
and
know,
forth.
you would think that there'd be some kind of handle on, it's not a huge area. You'd think that there'd be some way to get a head count as
Well,
to how many deer are out
it's
there.
tough for the staff to do it,
know.
because, you know, you get a head count and how many of the deer
They
are
don't stay
going
in
past the
place.
same trail.
Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to distinguish which ones are which.
Your photos.
But there are two ways to approach this. So one way would be, if you're interested, one way would be to hire a professional to come in and do it for the city. What that cost would be, I did not look into that. I don't know what those costs would be, but we could theoretically hire a professional to thin the herd population. We can look into that and get you numbers if you want. The other option is just to include it in the archery program. And if we did do that, what we would do is we kind of implement some of the same rules that were previously in place, and we would just basically put them forward here. So what we would do is, what I would recommend if we proceed with incorporating that, it would only be east of Dan's Avenue, would be my recommendation. The hunters involved in the management would be hand-selected by staff. So there's a pool of hunters that sign up for the program, and we work with the hunters to find a location for them to hunt throughout the city. We would definitely pick the ones that have not caused any problems in the past, the ones who are very responsible and we've worked with in the past, and those would be the ones hunting at the sanctuary. I would also recommend that the majority of the deer harvested would be kept there for food for the wolves. So we could do maybe the first 2 deer that they would remove. Those would stay at the sanctuary as a food source for us, and then they could keep the 3rd deer. So we could look at that. We would also look at maybe requiring them to shoot an antlerless deer first before they could shoot a buck. And then we could, as part of it, also select a target number of animals. That would be our target goal per year. And then we would reevaluate it again next year. So this would not be a plan that we would just say, okay, we're doing this every year indefinitely. We would evaluate it year by year, and when the herd gets thin, then we could hold off on it again. So those are kind of the 2 options. Either implement the bow hunting program with some, the rules that I kind of set forward, or, hire a professional to do it. But I would strongly not agree with hunting on east of Dan's Avenue. I know that that's a concern
That's not gonna
area
help
for
us,
you,
yeah.
but I would be
That's
opposed
half the
to
households
that.
are, then they're gonna still.
Okay,
East
have
or
a
west?
problem.
Second.
You said west, right?
I'm sorry,
East,
east,
west.
I'd be fine east of Dan's
The other
Avenue.
way down.
Anything west, I would have some concerns, and those are safety concerns for the public and for the
Any other questions?
4K. Now, is there some leeway to that? I would really have to defer to the attorneys from both the school district and the city.
I would I would like you to look into that. But, the first, what's the one out in, I can't think of it.
Reforestation.
Reforestation camp, they do a hunting, and that has, they just close the trails down
Yeah.
at that time. So you don't have people wandering, when they're doing it, and the public is aware, then they put it out, you're doing it this time. But I think more of the deer are coming down on more people on this side than they are down a little further. They do have some issues down there too, but not like we're having down by us. I don't know why, but they seem to conjugate more on this side. I don't know.
And
But,
that could be-
yeah, but I do know, someone told me later on, there was a deer that was on the highway, got hit, went over. It was laying on the other side of the overpass, down on Webster. Because I saw it there, and then I thought, oh, someone hit it took off because the deer was just laying, this other guy stopped and directed traffic. And someone later said, no, it was up in the highway. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying, it's so many, and it's really going to cause, someone could get killed, especially if it's on the highway, someone hits it. I don't know.
Any
That's
other
just
questions from committee?
to me.
Anything else, older person? Otherwise
Well,
we'll chew it over.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like, just to, I thought you should know the situation that's going on. And, yeah, I'd like to work with the sanctuary and that, but I do feel too, it's also inhumane if you got too many in one section. And they're gonna come out and look for food, right? And unfortunately, it's all our yards and
Okay.
we
Well,
see
why
them
don't we
running all over
discuss
the
it up
place.
here and go
Yeah.
from there? What are your questions, Alderman Burnett?
I think we were talking specifically about Alder Faves area, but I know in my district, quite a bit of woods on the far west side, and I can't say that I've noticed an increase of deer any other time of the year. In fact, on my side of town, I've had a neighborhood meeting, and there's some coyote in my district, believe it or not. I think maybe there are more possibly predators that could cull the herd too. So
Yeah,
I think if we look at it as a citywide thing, I don't want to just, I know we're talking a year,
Right,
but
right.
overall, it might be something that the city would have to develop a more comprehensive focus. And for that, I think we should refer to the Parks Department to maybe come up with, because it's hard to know if it's a true problem. I mean, how do you possibly determine if it's a actual thing? You know, because I think the public backlash, this happens all the time when you talk about geese remediation, and all of a sudden you have the main officer, whoever, shooting geese. I mean, people get upset by that kind of stuff if there's not an identified need to do it that's verifiable. So I'm just not comfortable making a recommendation outside of referring to city staff to.
right, to look into the whole,
right.
the
But,
whole
you know, I know
situation.
we're talking about this specific area, but, you know, I agree with Alderman Burnett that, you know, we should look at, 'cause there's other areas in the city that have animals. quite a
Being
few.
overrun, right.
Anything else, Alderman Strayer?
No, that's all.
So motion to refer to staff, to report back in 2 weeks.
Motion by Alderman Burnett to refer this to staff. Would that be
Is
to
that enough time?
potentially look at the legality of hunting on the one side?
Yeah, something, I mean, Dan did a great job,
Yeah.
but something a little more that we could, you
Well,
know.
I think just refer to staff
Yeah.
and bring back to the committee for further discussion, I think would be an appropriate.
Yeah, I
motion.
mean, for my district, for example, because it we really should look at citywide, but in my district, if there is an issue,
Mhm.
there was the police shot a deer on Sandstone that was lame, and, you know, that came up in July. But in my district specifically, I'm sure the Oneidas would have some input into whatever we decide out there, because a lot of their, you know, their land is protected natural resources. And so anyways, I think that a little more.
All right, well, there's a motion. Was there a second to
No,
that?
this is just for this particular area, correct?
Um,
We're not
that is
looking at
our
the whole
item.
city?
That is our,
That's, I mean, that we have to stick to
Yeah.
that. I mean, if we want to go further, we
I mean, we
can
can-
open that up later, but I would
Oh, I
second.
see what you're saying.
So what's your
Well, that's
motion?
well, we can put it on.
Yeah,
Next
I'll make a
agenda anyway.
motion, yeah. Well, my motion would be to refer to staff to look at reinstating the deer management program at the Wildlife Sanctuary, but also look at whether the issue is citywide.
That's right.
Oh, and you should direct them also to work with the school district.
And they will. I
Yeah.
mean, that's part
Okay,
of it.
that's part of, okay.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
I'll second that.
And there's a second to that. I know, boy, when I was on council years ago, it seemed like every year, every other year, we'd have like a report. It was like a, do you remember that, Dan? We'd
I
always
don't
have,
remember the report.
have-
I mean, it's probably, been, the program's been in place probably, 12, 15 years
Yeah.
would be my guess.
I think we'd get a report of how many were called every year. And I think that was back when Fred Graves was on the council, and he would really drive this hunting, or.
Yeah, and
So,
back
after
then
he
that
left
was
the
a,
company.
back then that was a new program that
Yeah.
was just
Yep.
instated, but, it's been a successful program. I mean, we have a lot of participation, there's a lot of interest to be enrolled in the program. We do take quite a few deer are controlled on a yearly basis through this program. So it's been a real success, but like I said, at the sanctuary, it's been on and off. I mean, it is a sanctuary, it is a wildlife sanctuary. But if the herd gets too big, there's problems that go along with it, not just for the residents, but also for the deer themselves. So sometimes, although it's a sanctuary, sometimes there's a need to do it. That's why it hasn't been done every single year out there.
Now, before you speak, it was my suggestion, and Alder LaFave didn't like this, but I think we let the predators out 1 week in a month. Just kind of warn everybody. And I think the problem takes care of itself.
Just stay in and watch a movie.
Can't watch a movie.
I'm just gonna ask, Dan, with the deer, you mentioned that, in the past, that they would give the first 2 deer for the wolves, et cetera, and then the hunters would get to keep the deer?
At that point, the third deer, they could either keep or donate it to
I was
someone
wondering
else,
about
to food
donations,
or to Paul's Pantry or something.
That type of thing.
A lot of the deer that are managed through this program are actually donated to Paul's
That's what I
Pantry
did.
and other
That's good.
food sources.
I just want to put one other thing too. I'm not bringing this forward and saying, oh, there's a sanctuary and there were deer there and I moved in here and now they're eating my stuff. No, I'm saying like I've been there 48 years. I mean, and just the last 6-7 years, that kind of tells you, and all my neighbors will say this too, that there's too many deer.
I can vouch for that, having been here. Those numerous times there's been a change.
Yeah,
I vote for
yeah.
that.
So do we vote?
Yeah, let's vote on the referral. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Oh, good day.
Director's report.
John's on this big deer.
All right, so we have coordinated with neighborhood associations, several of them, one to install an oversized Adirondack chair at Navarino Park, so that's a pretty fun project. And we installed a Gaga pit at Fridge Park, so that was just put in last weekend.
What?
It's
A
a,
Gaga pit?
Yeah, what's a gaga?
Lady Gaga?
It's a fun sport. My children love that sport. It's kind of like a low impact dodgeball, where kids of all ages can compete against each other and play. And a 5-year-old kid could beat a 15-year-old kid or an adult. So it's really a fun sport, but it's our first Gaga pit in the park system. They're now, I mean, there's probably a bunch of them all over the city at different school sites, and I know, but this is the first one in a park
If I
location.
could,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt. Dan, speaking of which, I was in contact with Randy Griswold, and Will Peters posted something on the Neighbor Leadership Council. I don't know if he had been in contact with you, but they're trying to get the word out, so if
Oh,
you
okay.
could post something or have something posted on the city park site,
Sure.
that would be great. Maybe if you have Randy Griswold's number, reach out to him, because he kind of prepared some statement that could possibly be used. If we get, like you said, it is the only one so far, and it's low cost, so if we can get a little public notification, the neighborhood association did this with their resources, a grant they had received, so it's a low cost, the city doesn't require a lot of labor to do such
So a
things.
tournament,
It's,
Yeah.
council versus administration.
So I do have a photograph of it on my phone that I
Yeah.
can show you after the meeting.
basically a
so.
big round, I don't know how tall is the wall, 2-3 feet?
It's about like that tall.
You have 10, 12, 15 people in it in one ball, and you throw the ball up, you see a Gaga ball, and you can't grab it, but you can hit it. And if you hit it off of someone, they're out. And then the ball goes flying around, and you
If
go
they
and you try
catch
and hit
it,
it.
no, what if they catch it?
If someone hits it at you and you catch it, they're out.
You're not
Right.
allowed to catch it.
Oh, all right.
So if
I've only
it-
played as scouts
Hit 'em
once.
If it hits anything below your knees, you're out. And all you can do is kind of slap the ball. You can't catch it.
Yeah.
You can't hold on to the ball. All you do is
Oh,
it
it's
rolls
like-
around and
it's
you
fun.
slap it.
Is it also called Israeli dodgeball, I believe?
No,
I haven't
really-
heard that before, but it may be.
that sounds more dangerous.
Keeping on with the report here, so at Colburn Park, we did install a drainage line to assist with the removal of some snow melt next spring, adjacent to a property owner's property. Stump removal has begun along the streets and parks. So the storms this summer added 200 stumps to our current list of stumps. So we're going to be behind for a while with stumps. Emerald ash borer, the treatments have been completed for 2,300 street trees this season, so we did quite a few of them. Renovation work has officially begun at Colburn Pool, so if you go out there, you'll see them working. Over at East River Optimist Park, our contractor has started work on the parking lot construction there, And over at Ken Ewers, the contractor, or Ducks Unlimited, began work on the waterfall habitat restoration project. So that's going now. In 2019, our summer program, playground program went really well. The attendance this year was over 60,000 people came to our park program. So we keep track of every park on a daily basis, how many kids participate. Over 60,000 participations all summer long. The Going Big in the Bay skateboarding event took place on Saturday, August 10th at Joanne's. We had over 100 participants there. That's an annual fundraising event. All proceeds go to do more work at Joanne's. Bay Beach season is winding down. We're only open weekends now. We're closed on weekdays. On August 27th, we did have a ribbon cutting for the new 4K addition and rental space at the Nature Center. And then there was a public open house the next day on August 28th. So, and just so you know, although there was a ribbon cutting, there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done and a few final punch list items that the contractor needs to complete before we can officially open it up to the 4K program and the rentals. So in a few weeks, that building will officially open to the public. We do have a Walk for Wildlife, which is scheduled this Saturday, September 14th. That is our largest fundraising event, annual event for the Wildlife Sanctuary. Great program. It brings in a lot of money for animal rehab. All of the proceeds go to animal rehab out at the sanctuary. So I think
Was there a number?
last year they brought in, I think, $18,000 out of that event. So
Okay.
you can make it. It's a great event. I would encourage you to be there.
What does it cost?
I don't remember the registration fees. You can go on the Wildlife Sanctuary website to track that down. And then it's a morning walk. I think it starts around 8 a.m. and it usually winds down around 11. So that concludes my division report.
I did have one-
Director's report.
One item, thank you, Dan. When Colburn reopens next year, the Colburn Neighborhood Association is putting aside some money to help with like a grand reopening. If we could just
okay.
coordinate with them and have something like we did with Fisk Pool when it reopened, is when we had a big event.
Sure.
We could have,
You can do a cannonball.
there we go. Yeah, we'll have some tacting competitions. Right? And then there happens to be a stump in front of 920 Spence Street that needs removal. I don't know who lives there, but just saying.
I will let them know.
A little favor.
I have a question for Dan. For Bay Beach, when is the boardwalk and pier and the beach, when are they going to start?
Yeah, so about a week ago, we received the 90% engineering set from our engineer. So the city is in the process of reviewing those and getting them comments. We hope to put portions of that project out to bid in a few weeks from now and then maybe construction would probably be sometime in October. Mid to late October is when construction would start. And then that construction we do some in the fall and then carry over into the spring of next year.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll end up phasing it where we'll bid out a portion now, a portion this winter, and another portion next spring, so.
Oh, and you didn't report on the Geezer pickleball.
No, I did not.
Wait a
Is that
second.
Good
Geezer?
event.
Hey,
Okay,
Mark, you
now,
weren't there.
Who are the Geezers?
who said that?
Who are the Geezers?
I think that's just the name of their group.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to talk to
I
Jim.
didn't, I haven't even, to tell you the truth, I haven't
Pickleball
even
guy.
seen it played yet.
Oh.
But I'm planning on going and checking
I
it
have.
out.
Oh, okay.
My
You
son
know what?
played baseball at Edison all the time, and they were always playing pickleball behind us. So I can see quite a bit.
Well, one of the things we're looking into is the sound, that they could be, the neighbors might go, hey, that's a little loud, so we're looking at some orders. All right.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Motion to adjourn. We'll set are we back to our normal schedule now, pretty much every other
Yeah,
week?
so
or-
who made the motion for the director's report?
Steve
Motion to
West?
receive and place on file.
Burnett?
Second.
Stoyer, in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And let's see here,
Next
do
meeting.
we meet in 2 weeks again, or do we?
Did you vote on adjourning yet?
No, I was looking at
We
our
meet September 25th is the next
Okay.
meeting, 2 weeks from now.
September 25th. And adjourn, anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. I don't think we need a second for adjournment, do we?
Sure.
So those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right.
Brewers losing 2-1.
Okay, that was my next. Yeah.
That was your next question. Grisham hit a leadoff homer. Not that I was not paying attention. Happened to have a piece of